Morning, folks. Thanks for joining. We'll be making a start in just 1 minute. Morning, folks. Thanks for joining. We'll be making a start in just 1 minute. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM live demo for this month. Hello and welcome. I'm Alex Challis. Just some very quick housekeeping. It is a live webinar and it is being recorded. And at the end of the webinar, we'll take some time for some questions. If you, while I'm speaking, if you want to ask a question, please click on the Q&A button on your webinar window and make a note of the question, and then I'll try to get through as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. We've got 30 minutes allocated, and I want to try and get you guys off to your next meeting on time, so let's get going. Okay, so let me begin with just a very quick overview of who we are. We are Sumo Logic, and we've built a continuous intelligence platform for observability and security, which is analyzing an exabyte of data every single day. We have more than 100,000 users across the globe using us on a daily basis. Using our continuous intelligence platform, Sumo Logic offers this broad range of security solutions that you can see on the slide, ranging on the left from audit and compliance all the way across to our Cloud SIEM solution. Today, I'm going to be zeroing in and focusing on our Cloud SIEM solution, which is included with our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on module. You can check the Sumo Logic website, webinar page. If you want to register for one of our other live demos, we have a SOAR demo on Thursday this week as well, if you're interested in continuing the security theme, and then also an observability demo on tomorrow, on Wednesday. Okay, let's move along. In terms of the 4 solutions sets that you see on the slide here, audit and compliance is really the basic platform which provides a highly scalable and secure platform for storing all of your data. It's backed by numerous security certifications and attestations, obviously to protect the data that's being stored. The cloud security monitoring and analytics builds on the solution for compliance, and Sumo Logic offers security analytics in that solution and allows you to perform deep searches against your data set, obviously all supported with security-orientated dashboards and out-of-the-box searches. We have Cloud SIEM, which I'll be talking about in more detail. In essence, we provide continuous threat correlation, which goes back weeks, not just hours, unlike most of our competitors. And we support your on-prem, cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, whatever your type of compute model, we support that with out-of-the-box content and other rules. And then finally, as you begin to mature your security operations, you can improve your productivity by automating those common, repetitive, tedious tasks. Once you have some standard operating procedures down, ideal time to start looking at our Cloud SIEM product. Okay, moving on. So digital transformation and the recent growth in organizations migrating to the cloud has created new challenges and security blind spots, pardon you, and quite frankly, legacy security tools and SIEMs weren't built for the cloud, and this has really resulted in more threat visibility gaps than ever before. So speaking of existing security tools, many SOC teams are tired of the slow, inefficient and manual workflows they've been having to endure. And with the recent shift in the threat landscape and new attack surfaces that are coming about through cloud adoption, security analysts really need some help with speeding up their investigations and response times. I think everyone's probably heard of the concept of alert fatigue, and that's obviously well documented in the industry. Another top challenge shown on the right here in the slide is that security teams are spending too much time and resource on chasing low priority security alerts, and of course the ever present false positive problem. All of the increasing alerts and noise is really continuing to burn out team members with this concept of alert fatigue. And this has made it clear to CISOs and security operations, SOC directors, that this is really no longer, or alert triage is really no longer a human scale problem. Because you simply can't hire your way out of this situation. As we know, there's an immense shortage of skilled security analysts in the industry, and it's, even if you could find the people to hire, you'd probably find the cost of doing so prohibitively expensive. So our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM solution offers easy to use cloud native collection and threat detection for security professionals. Number one, we help your SOC team eliminate these security blind spots I've been talking about. And we do that by correlating threats across all of your on-premise, public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud environments. Secondly, we're also able to help you speed up your threat investigations and combat the lost time that you've spent due to these manual workflow with your security, with your legacy security operations tools. And then finally, we help our customers cut through the noise, the poor signal to noise ratio that many SOCs experience. And we do this by automatically triaging and prioritizing the security threats that matter most to your SOC and your organization. Okay, so for this, for this cutting through the noise benefit, let me drill down a little bit further into the alert fatigue challenge and put some numbers on it, and then I'll explain why or what makes our Cloud SIEM solution truly unique. So here's a real world example. It's a global manufacturing company who sent more than 10 billion logs and event data to Sumo Logic over a 45-day proof of value evaluation period. And our Cloud SIEM automatically ingested the data, the raw log data. We normalized those into what we call records. And in total, we fired 9.8 million signals. So the signals are what other vendors might refer to as notable events or correlations or alerts. They're all the same thing. They're the detections, basically. So most traditional SIEMs would use correlation rules to get to the point that you can see on the screen, while other solutions try to increase alert fidelity further, requiring substantial rule stacking and tuning, maybe some machine learning and risk scoring. But in general, they stop right here because they don't have, capture unknown threat patterns. Ultimately, security teams need to filter the remaining alerts and throw level 1 security analysts at the problem for alert triage. But even that can still result in errors and other issues, missed alerts, bad decisions, as well as it obviously taking far too much precious human time. So Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM uniquely provides real automation of the security analyst's workflow. Our insight engine is, uses an adaptive signal clustering algorithm which is really implemented as a heuristic-based artificial reasoning system. What that means in plain English is every time a rule fires, it creates a signal with a unique signature. It also creates a reference to the entity or the asset that signal refers to, and also a severity score. The insight engine also provides, on top of that, a powerful view back in time. So it evaluates all of the signals associated with this entity, or with the entity that we're concerned with. We do that for the last 30 days. So most legacy SIEMs will struggle to correlate information over more than a few hours. So when our algorithm determines that the aggregated risk surpasses a threshold, it generates an insight, and I'll show you that in the demo in just a second. And an insight is simply a structured set of information which is really optimized to accelerate this whole alert triage process. So these insights represent a sophisticated layer of analysis, because our insight engine allows our Cloud SIEM to detect advanced threats, low and slow attacks, as well as higher speed direct threats as well, of course. So on top of this, we also offer exabyte cloud scale, and we can dramatically improve the signal to noise ratio. In fact, the organization concerned in this slide here witnessed a signal to insight ratio of 56,494 to 1, leading to 175 insights, of which they validated 65 incidents over the course of their POV, 45-day POV. And this customer also previously struggled with 98% false positive rate, despite all of the investment they had in multiple tools and services, and also the use of an MSSP vendor as well. With Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM, we enabled them to centralize their data and consolidate the tools while drastically reducing their false positives rate to just a mere 9%. So needless to say, this global manufacturer is now a Sumo Logic customer. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to flip across to the live demo. And what you see on the screen now is what we call our head-up display. This is all about situational awareness, and the insight radar that you can see, this these big circles in the center of the screen here. In essence, what they're doing is they're charting the three metrics, the three values that you see the system presenting in the top left-hand corner here. So we have records, signals, and insights, which are charted as records, the outer dark blue line, signals, the histogram in the middle, and then the insights are these triangles that appear around the center of the insight radar. So currently we're looking at the 24-hour period. And as you can see in that 24-hour period, we've normalized our log data to create somewhere around 8 million records. So records are our normalized version. When you begin to correlate data, you need to normalize it first. This is something that most SIEMs all do. We then take the normalized log data and we pass it through our rules-based correlation engine. As you can see, the output of that rules-based correlation engine over that 24-hour period was somewhere around about 519,000 signals. And this is really where most legacy SIEMs, most of our competitors stop. And clearly the data reduction there isn't particularly great, or certainly not good enough. What that really results in is this this concept of alert fatigue, because you're having human beings having to take those 520,000 detections, those signals, those correlations, and try and figure out from them where to start. So that's the old way of doing things. Thankfully, with Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM, we have this concept of insights. And so what we've done is automatically run alert triage on those signals and boiled those up to 10 insights over the 24-hour period. So these are the 10 riskiest collections of detections that have occurred in that 24-hour period. And clearly that's where you want your security analysts to start working. The other things that you see on the head-up display, on the right-hand side here, we see the most recent insight activity. So as you can see here, the insight 4495. So it has insights have a workflow type ticketing type function, as well as a detection function. The other thing that you can see here as well is we've labeled insight 4495 as credential access with execution. So we make heavy use of MITRE attack tactics and techniques. The tactics themselves are used, or the tactics that are associated with the underlying signals. So in this case, credential access and execution are both associated with the name of Insight 4495. I mentioned in my talk that insights collect together signals around what we call entities or assets, if you like. And you can see in this example here, we have Napoleon Dynamite as our entity. I'm able to click in and pull up further information around Napoleon. I can see here, obviously, he's working as part of the office of the CEO, and if I need to contact him or get any other details, they're available here. And then the other thing that you see in the main part of the screen here is all of the previous insights and signals that this particular entity, Napoleon Dynamite, has fired. Obviously, it's demo data, so it's somewhat repetitive. And then the other thing that you can see is that we're also able to weight the detections. In this particular case, as you can see here, we're weighting it detections around Napoleon because he's an executive. The other things that you can see in this insight summary here is you can also see the crosshair, which represents the 3 unique signals that we've correlated over a 4-hour period, and each of the signals is charted over time and severity on that little crosshair here. So let's dive in and take a look at these 10 insights. So there's a couple of views available here. Obviously, this is a list. You can obviously search the insights that you have in the system either by their state, so the state through the workflow engine, maybe their severity, or maybe something else interesting about them, maybe the particular entity that's concerned with them. The other way of looking at the data is also to use our Kanban view here, and this would be something maybe a SOC manager would use to go ahead and assign particular insights to particular queues. Let's go ahead and assign that. And let's take this one here, maybe, and assign that to the email team like that. As an analyst, obviously, I'd be coming in and checking the insights and diving in and taking a look at what we're seeing. So let's do that here now with Insight 4490, which, as we can see from the MITRE attack tactics, is to do with command and control and execution, all around this user here, Deb Smith. So this is now providing us with all of the detail of Insight 4490. So essentially what you saw me do there by clicking into the insight was the alert triage process. Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM has completely automated it. And so you have these ready-baked incidents, if you like, that your security operations, your analysts can either start incident response or perhaps do some further threat hunting around. But yeah, as I said earlier, insights provide a correlation function over a long period of time, as well as a workflow function. Let's start with the workflow. Everything really workflow related is on the left-hand side here. So as an analyst, if I'm starting work, I'm going to go ahead here and select the status to tell my teammates it's in progress. I could go ahead and assign it to one of my teammates. or even a team, a group of analysts, if you're working in a big SOC. I'm going to go ahead and just assign it to myself there. We have the information available here around, oops, sorry about that, around Deb Smith. So again, as you can see here, we've imported her profile from Active Directory. We can do this from other types of directory as well, AWS inventory, those types of things. You also see what we call global confidence. So global confidence is a way of having the system essentially crowdsourced based on your peers that are also using the Sumo Logic service, some confidence about the collection of signals, or about the true positive nature of the collection of signals. In this particular case, the system is measuring this insight as 95%. Using this global confidence score. So that's high, 0% would be low confidence, likely to be a false positive. 95% is obviously giving us a very, very high indicator here. Again, based, as I said, on your peers, so their actions with similar signal sets in their Cloud SIEM, as well as your own analysts and their past use of the system. The other things you could do is you could, for example, if you started your analysis of this particular incident and you wanted to go ahead and automate a response, maybe you want to do some containment or something like that, or maybe you just want to perform some further enrichment before you pass it across to the incident response team. So one great way of doing that and using automation is using our Cloud SIEM product. And by creating an incident and selecting the template, will essentially kick off one of the playbooks in our Cloud SIEM product. The other information you see are some basic statistics around this insight, so dwell time, when the insight was created, the total number of unique signals, and these are all about recording metrics related to SOC efficacy. So being able to measure things like mean time to detect, respond, and remediate. And if you recall on the head-up display, those are the key metrics that we chart there as well. The other information that you see here, tags, these are inherited from the entity and also the signals that are attached to the insights. That the MITRE attack tactics and the techniques that you see here have been labeled automatically from the enclosed signals. And we can also see in this particular case, Deb Smith is a developer and also a regular user. It might be that you want to go ahead and label the insight. Maybe you've got your own incident taxonomy. Many SOCs do. You could go ahead and label that, or maybe one of the other tag schemas if you wanted to apply those. And then finally, I'm just going to leave a note here to let my fellow analysts know that I've started work on it. And obviously, as I work through the insight, I can keep a record of my activities and findings so that if I go off shift, someone else can pick up where I've left off. Okay, so that's all, well, not quite all of the workflow. The final thing you can do is it might be, maybe you're not using a Sumo Logic SOAR, or maybe you want to drive the workflow using some other external workflow system. So as you can see, we make it very, very easy to integrate with other third-party systems, either to do the orchestration and remediation or to drive the workflow. Finally, at the end of the analytical process, once you've reviewed the insight and taken your actions in response to the incident, you can obviously come in and close out the insight. This is very, very important for generating that global confidence score. This is really what's telling the system what the outcome of the investigation is. We have some obviously system provided resolution types, as well as you're able to create your own resolution types. But as I said, very important to do that at the end. That teaches the system whether the insight was a good true positive, or whether it collected together some false positives. Okay. So final part of the demo is really just to look at what we're seeing here. So this is really what the analyst is really going to work on, right? I've just rolled up the three signals. So each of these lines represent the three signals that this particular insight collects. At the top here, we have what we call the insight timeline. This allows an analyst to very, very easily get an overview of the progression of the insight. Right at the very beginning here, we can see that there's a couple of signals, and then there's a period of time here about 3 hours or so, or no longer than that. Where were we going here? Yeah, getting on for about 9 hours or so between the first couple of detections and then the final detection, which is at the very end here. Obviously, you can probably see the thread there in terms of the nature of this particular incident. But let's have a look at some of the detail anyway by scrolling down. So as I said, each of these represent the three signals. As we can see, this particular insight started with our Zscaler device warning us about an elevated or an event with an elevated risk score. We then had a hit so on our threat intel feed. So it's very, very easy to bring all sorts of threat intel feeds into Cloud SIEM. This particular one was based on a Styx taxi feed, and as you can see here, it's warning us about a known bad domain. And then finally, we can see our EDR product here, Sentinel-1, warning us about a keylogger being detected. So let's dive in and start to look at a little bit more of the detail here. You can click into each of the signals. You can get a description of why the signal, why the detection fired, as well as the expression that matched as part of the signal. We can pivot out and look up the actual rule definition if we want to edit the rule, or maybe add a rule tuning expression to it. Then that's very easily linked from here. The other thing that you can see across the top here is an enrichment. So what we're able to do is either enrich the data through a trigger into our Cloud SOAR product, so go away, do some enrichment and poke it back into the insight, or we can do it by going out through what we call an enrichment server and executing some commands. In this particular case, as you can see here, we've done some enrichment around VirusTotal on the domain that was concerned, and we've also provided the data, essentially the JSON data, which was returned by the VirusTotal lookup, which is really helping us understand that, yeah, this really is a bad domain that was visited. So back to the details. In the details, we can see here from our Zscaler event, the action was allowed. There's the domain that resulted in a threat intel hit. And then the other types of information you can see here are some of the enrichments the system automatically does. So in this particular case, we've labeled URL entropy. So this is the randomness of the domain name. We can also do things like looking for DGA and dynamic domains as well, because often, obviously, they're implicated in malware and other command and control type activities. I have all of the detail of the original event. So each of these starred fields here are the favorite fields that you see at the top, but you have all of the detail of the normalized record. So that's at the top here, as well as the original JSON schema of the underlying events. In this particular case, we can see it was Google Drive, which accessed a document, an Office document, and the Zscaler warned us about this detection of a Trojan in that. I don't have to keep going back. I can to the insight. I can step through each of the signals. So the second one was that threat intel match. Again, we can see in the signal itself, it's warning us about the URL matching or being matched as a known threat intel domain. And then finally, if we step through to the final signal in this particular insight, we can see here Sentinel-1, our EDR product, is warning us, or essentially confirming our suspicion here, which is the users clicked on a bad document and got themselves infected. And here we can see our EDR product warning us about where the bad binary was downloaded from, as well as the name of the bad binary. And if we look down at all of the detail from the Sentinel-1 event, we can see all of the other original information provided using the Sentinel-1's JSON schema for this event. So good. So hopefully you can see quite easily there how you can follow through a insight that's been generated by the system. I hope you can also see how by automating the whole alert triage process, how that's going to save you a tremendous amount of time in terms of avoiding, any type of manual alert triage. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the presentation just for the last couple of slides, and then we've got I think I've just got a little bit of time to do one or two questions. So while I've been talking here about Cloud SIEM, I don't know whether I mentioned this, but it's built on a cloud native platform in AWS. We've got deployments across all of these regions that you see on screen, and really this global presence really enables us to deliver, first of all, a low latency cloud for you to store your data, along, and probably more importantly, along with helping you to meet your compliance and other local regulatory requirements around data residency. So questions. So let me see here. There were a couple of questions that came in. So let's see, the first one here. So yeah, it's a bit of an involved question. So can CSE usage avoid or at least reduce correlations implemented on the platform, focusing platform usage only on investigations and custom detection? So essentially what the question is about is, where do you use Cloud SIEM? Where would you use the underlying data lake platform? So Cloud SIEM is great at driving the workflow, obviously detecting these collections of signals, boiling them up in terms of insights, the most threatening collections of detections. And then typically, most people use the data lake platform for really slicing and dicing the data, right? So drilling down into it, really more threat hunting, I would say. Whereas Cloud SIEM is very much about driving that SOC workflow and obviously bubbling up the most threatening collections of events. So I hope that has answered your questions or that question. The next one is regarding what's performing the enrichment that I showed using VirusTotal. And so basically, I think I mentioned in the demo that you're able to enrich both using our Cloud SOAR, but we can also do some basic enrichment in Cloud SIEM as well. So what I showed you in the Cloud SIEM, that enrichment was actually run from Cloud SIEM against VirusTotal. But you could do something similar and indeed more advanced using the Cloud SOAR product as well, if you're using that for your automation and remediation of workflow. Good, excellent questions. Thank you very much. I think that's pretty much coming up for time. Yeah, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for listening. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got any further questions. Again, I'm Alex Challis, and I'm one of the sales engineers here in our EMEA team at Sumo Logic. Feel free to reach out to me. And if you want to know a little bit more about our systems, then feel free to reach out to our sales reps as well, and we'd be very happy, obviously, to schedule a meeting and talk a little bit more about your unique requirements. So thank you very much for listening today. That's the end of the webinar. Until next time, and have a very good day. Goodbye.